Welcome to another edition of Minot Matters here at the Dakotan, brought to you by Shock Safe and Lock. We have a special guest today. We are joined by Interim City Manager Tom Joyce. He joined the city, or his hiring was approved back in 2023. He joined in January of 2024. And then August of 2025, he stepped into the interim city manager role. And of course, first off, welcome. We haven't had you on the podcast yet, so I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, thanks.
Have to talk to our scheduling coordinator.
It's
Yeah,
all good. Yeah. What's that? You look in the mirror.
Yeah, you look in the mirror. We messed that up, but really appreciate you coming on. Of course, you weren't always in city leadership and things like that. At one point, you were in the Air Force, spent time in Colorado. If you're in the Air Force, I'm sure other areas as well. Tell us a little bit about the Air Force and why the decision to kind of look at the civic side of things, look at going into a city management.
Yeah, fair question. So actually, I'll go back a little bit. So I joined the Air Force through the Air Force ROTC program, University of Virginia. I honestly thought I would do my payback of 4 years and be done, but here we go with it. Like any good company, right? They're looking after their staff and they keep throwing a bone at you. Next thing you know, I served 28 years. So
wow,
that was awesome. Retired down in San Antonio.
Okay.
And, at the time when I retired, I was actually looking into city government, in county government, just, getting into the municipal world.
Right.
I grew up as a support officer in the Air Force. So no matter where I was in the Air Force, I was always supporting operations and people and airmen and families. So those kind of who I am and what I do, I thought that would transition well to local government, county government, city government, and the opportunity just didn't really present itself back in when I retired in San Antonio. But I kept my eye on the ball, was still interested, and it just so happens, about 2 years ago, I was just looking to do something different. I'd served 8.5 years at that point as a Department of the Army civilian. Mm-hmm. And just reached out to a few people. They connected me with a couple of executive recruiters.
I see.
And then next thing you know, I got a call from one of them, and it was a good fit. And, I'll tell you straight up, people say, Minot, why are you going to Minot? When you grew up in the Air Force, and even I grew up as an Army brat, kid, military community is what I've been around my whole life.
Okay.
And I'd been to Minot once before, but I share this story. It didn't really count.
Okay, it doesn't count.
Because it was 3 days in June.
That's not the true.
So 3 days in June doesn't really count.
Experience.
But I knew a great number of people who had been stationed here with their families and had nothing but good things to say about Minot. So that opened the door, and here we are.
So I'm sure you've had a few stops in the Air Force if you have that long of a career. I understand Minot's probably not your favorite town out of all the different cities that you've lived in. But when you compare it to some of those different stops along the ways, what are some of the positive things that stand out about Minot in this community that many people call wonderful? It's a wonderful community,
right?
Compared to maybe some of the other places that you've had the chance to live in.
Yeah, well, I would say there's two sides to every coin, right? So every place that we've ever lived has had some really good things, and then some things you'd like, you're not so hip on. But in terms of size of communities, we lived in Dover, Delaware, Fort Walton Beach. Those are similar size communities, 25 to 50,000 size communities. And then we lived in some of the really big ones like San Antonio and Colorado Springs, right? Colorado Springs, heck, El Paso County is the size and population of the state of North Dakota, right? Yeah. So we've lived in both, but there are some things about Minot that are very attractive, and it was day one. And I talked to this last week. I had the opportunity representing Mayor Janser, meeting with the Norwegian delegation that was here for Foos Fest, and just walking down Main Street. And like you said, it was about October of 23. I was here for an interview, and my wife and I were walking up Main Street. It was a beautiful fall day, and there's music coming out of the flower baskets for crying out loud. Yeah. But this city takes pride in its downtown. We've been in a lot of smaller places just driving through the country that the downtowns are run down. Like nobody cares. And right there, I say, hey, this city cares. Like I could just tell that this city cares, right? And the other cool thing about Main Street, Minot, to me, is that everything is locally owned. There's no brand names down there, right? This is really cool. So that's that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
And then just the people in Minot themselves, right? It's good people. I want to get to know the people even more. But it's not just, hey, it's all about the people. It's always about the people, right? Yeah. But the people here, it's that resilience factor.
Yep.
They've been through tough times together here, most recently the 2011 flood, but, just the history of the people that have lived here, since 1887 and just the pride of kind of, hey, making it through these winters. If nothing else, you're proud of that.
Right, for sure. So as you prep to come to Minot, you get the call that you are going to be the one for that it was a new role at the time?
It was a new role.
Yeah, brand new role. Did you have any reading material there? Did you find any books about Minot? Did you try to dive into the research of Minot and history of Minot and understand what it was?
Not much, I will say we stayed at the Dakota Rose B&B.
Yes, there you go.
And Jim and Carol had some books out that we thumbed through and talked a little bit with them about the flood and how that property, how significantly damaged it was, and that right there was okay,
Yep.
And it's interesting. Other people in the world were doing something else in the spring and early summer of 2011.
Yeah.
And I had a significant other role in the Air Force at that time. That it's just interesting how communities come together, and nationally you may not even know it's happening. And that doesn't mean that FEMA didn't know. Doesn't mean that we didn't have guard. It's like it's the local community that comes together and pulls itself out. And since then, talking to airmen that were at the base at the time and how they just came and volunteered and we're shoveling sand and putting sandbags together and those kind of things. And even our own staff who told me those stories, it was all folks on deck sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a really, really great point. But one of the things that stood out to you was walking to the downtown area. And of course, that's an area that there's much discussion about behind the dais, on how the downtown should be taken care of. And we are blessed to have a nice area that people have chosen to invest. But because you're in this unique role where you've been in Minot for a couple of years, but you also remember those first few days in Minot, talk again about the impact of having that downtown, how it impacted you, and maybe even how you have heard it impact other people as you have walked with them in your downtown when they have considered investing in Minot, considered in bringing their families to Minot, however you've interacted with these people. Talk about the impact of the downtown area potentially.
Sure. Well, I think, it's that whole conversation about economic development. And people can say they, wish it was 1968 again. Well, it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. And, but there is that saying, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Right.
And I especially think, and I understand there's the dynamic between the people who may be more transient and are moving, and we're looking to bring in some talent into our overall workforce, and those who have been here for a number of years. I get that. But for somebody who has moved frequently with our stays while being members of the Air Force and working for the Department of the Army, you can tell that attraction that quick.
I see.
Right. And so, I said the downtown, but it's more than the downtown, but that was the initial impression, right? That was the initial impression. And then getting to know more about, and some of the neat places. I mean, we love the restaurants downtown.
Yeah.
Okay. That doesn't mean I don't love the fried pickles at Badlands either. Like I love that too. Right.
Yeah.
So, and, but we like the vibe of downtown, but that doesn't mean, we won't go to, jail beers or anything else. We're going to hit Dakota Mall and we're going to do all that. But again, that vibe that you can just tell when a community cares for new people in town, it jumps out at you right away. I mean, it smacks you in the face.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. You mentioned restaurants. Do you have a favorite restaurant? Do you choose a favorite restaurant, or do you choose not to say what your favorite restaurant is?
No, I would. We have different favorites, right? So, last week I had a couple opportunities where I, had lunch with some folks, and I like sitting down at Iron Horse because I just love those. I love the corner.
Yes.
I love the windows. I love the vibe.
Right.
It's whether you're sitting at a table or you're at the bar. I tell you, if you're hungry and you like, good product on a sandwich with a lot of meat, you run to Magic City Hoagies.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
tell you
true.
that right now.
That's
right?
true.
So,
Yep.
And then, we like the vibe and sitting down, at Atypical. I think what we're doing with Citizens Alley is great. Was down there when they did the celebration. So again, that whole vibe of downtown. I've only been to, what is it? Off the Vine.
Okay. Yep. Off the Vine.
Once.
Main Street.
But we'll definitely go back.
Yeah.
But again, Don Tapatio, even though it's moved, we like that.
Starving Rooster.
Starving Rooster's good. Starving Rooster, I just got, just some of my teammates clued me in on this when they were holding out on me.
Yeah.
Their lunch deals,
they're phenomenal.
They rock. Yeah. They have great lunch deals.
Well
and
priced.
then awesome. I've also been at a number of events where they've catered the event and they've done a great job.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. Switching gears a little bit, let's start talking about the role of the job. One of the things that we've heard you bring to the table in your current position, and it's been interesting, it's been a lot of fun because we got to see you in the background sitting somewhere in the audience at these city council meetings, and of course that all got switched up in August, and now you're behind the dice. But something that you've focused on many times is, well, we can go and implement something so that way we can get some numbers on this, or we'll go back and look at the numbers and then I can bring you a decision. There's been a lot of focus put on analytics. It's much like the NFL now, right?
That's right.
They don't make a fourth down call based off the feel of the game, but before that they look at the analytics like we should go for this. Is our team actually up for it though? And kind of bringing that approach to city council and to the city itself. Talk a little bit about your focus and emphasis on that analytics.
Yeah, there's a lot of data out there, right? So I think, and the city being one, but many, many companies over the last 10, 15 years have adopted various information systems, various management systems, resource systems. And we before I got here, had adopted a lot of them, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we're really a novice in some of these systems still.
Right.
I mean, the systems do way more than we currently are using them for. But that's not unusual. Most people have Outlook on their computer, right? And Outlook does a ton more than what you actually use it for,
fair.
right? So that's I think our challenge, right? Universally across the board in the city is to take a look at the data, and now do the analyze that data,
Right.
And what's the data telling you? So I was just talking this morning with our public information officer Jennifer Clean about what's this data. And how do we tell the story? And how do we help our department heads tell the story?
Right.
Because department heads didn't grow up with what, Tom's sitting here saying, there's here's some of my mantras. I'll say, no numbers without narrative, no narrative without numbers. And I get this look like,
what does this
what's
mean?
he talking about, right? So that means I'm not communicating and I need to talk through it. But I think, when it comes to engaging with council, when it comes to engaging with our citizens, we need to be able to have a story behind the data, tell them why this is important.
Right.
Why did we have all these orange barrels and orange cones all over the city this summer, right? Well, why? Well, our pavement condition index, part of pavement management, told us these roads needed to be done X, Y, Z.
Okay.
Our city engineer, Lance Meyer, will always tell you that, our job is to keep the good things good.
Okay.
Right. The last thing we want to do is what we had to do at 16th Street this summer. Right. But at a certain point, it's major reconstruction. Okay. You're almost starting from scratch.
Right.
We'd rather get a really good quality road and then do the minor repairs and chip seals and those kind of things, upkeep over time. But the data tells us a lot. So that's just an example.
Right.
But that same data, that type of data is in all of our departments.
Okay.
What are we doing? I did a right seat ride down in dispatch about 6-9 months ago. And it is amazing. Number one, if you know anybody that wants to be a dispatcher, we could use you on our team. But we have great people that work in dispatch. They're looking at 6 screens. They are the coolest, calmest, collected people known to man. They're doing like 5 things at one time while at the same time talking in a headphone so I can hear them on the headphone what they're doing. And
it's like a whole control center.
But there is so much data that they collect.
Yeah.
Every call is captured.
Right.
Now we use that data. I mean, so our police department has statistics briefings and intel briefings, and we use that data. But it's just an example of data is very helpful in this day and age. And then one of my other little mantras is the data gives you the objectivity, right? It's the objective data.
Right.
But we all have a brain between our ears.
Yes.
And we as leaders are paid to make a decision based on that data. And that's a subjective decision.
Yep.
And sometimes the data might lead you to this is the definite decision. But maybe that's the same reason why a head coach doesn't go for 4th and inches, even though the data says go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So the team just is not going to be able to make it because they're worn down, whatever the reason might be.
Whatever, right.
So with that, there's something that the city of Minot has implemented for a while, and that's this citizen satisfaction survey. And this time, people are just able to go online and do it. Here we go. We have it.
There we go, right there.
Just get that QR code, and you're able to go right there and complete that. That's awesome.
10, 12 minutes, doesn't take you that long. This is a new vendor that we're with today. We're this year. We're really impressed with them. So we're trying something new, right? We were using the same vendor for years in the past, and our former city manager had used them, and they were good.
Yep.
But we met with this vendor, and we really liked their approach to it. So just this morning, got an update from Jennifer Clean that we're at 811 completed. We had a little over 400 in 2023, so we almost doubled that. Jennifer's goal is 1,500. I told her my stretch goal is 4,000. She's looking at me like I'm crazy. But really, it's about the voice of the customer. We really need to hear what our residents think. What are the priorities? And we can, again, that's data that we can put together, and we can, share this with council as we're working towards a strategic plan, 3 to 5 years out. Where do we want to go?
4,000. I love
That's a stretch goal, but hey, why not?
Why not?
But it's until the 17th of October is when it closes. But, it's like anything else. If you wait to the 17th, you might not remember until the 18th. And you say, gummit, I forgot about that. So.
Right. So, sometimes we do stuff crazy here while we're on set, and we say stuff we regret. So, for instance, I have Kyler committed to if the Mariners and the Padres end up in the World Series, Kyler's going to shave his head.
I love that.
Yeah.
What a good man.
Yeah. So if we hit 4,000, is there anything crazy? Pie in the face?
We could easily do that.
You do a pie in the face?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Come on, we'll bring it on.
All right. Let's do it. All right. So let's get to 4,000.
We have it.
Yeah.
If we get 4,000, bring it on. Pie in the face.
I love it.
Well,
we got to make this happen.
Yeah.
Then.
Let's do it.
So they go there. I'm sure if you just go to minotindy.gov, that there's a prominent link for someone to go to as well if they don't hit the QR code. What do you do with this data though? So again, we're talking about data. What do we do with this information once you guys get it? Does this now exactly all the decisions you're going to make for 2026, or how does this feed into your guys' decision making
process?
It
certainly helps prioritizing, right? So anything, we're going through a tough budget process right now, but it's competing priorities.
Right.
We had all of our directors go through back in the spring. They put 9 budgets together, right? Wow. They put a flat budget together for 26, 27, 28. They put a budget together if it was minus 3% from 25 to 26, 27, 28, and they did a plus 3%, right? And when you look at that flat and that minus 3, it is tight. I mean, I got to tell you, there's no fat. We're cutting into meat. Yeah. And what does that mean? That means we got to prioritize.
Right.
Okay. And then we, the city staff through council and to the residents just have to inform you that we're making decisions based on competing priorities.
Right.
They're all priorities. We only have enough funds to fund X, Y, Z.
Right.
And so, for example, in 2023, what came out of it, snow removal was a priority. Okay. Streets was a priority.
Yeah.
Okay. Code enforcement was a priority. So streets, for example. Okay. So what did we do? We upped that.
Yep.
Right. 8 million to 11 million. Our original proposed budget for 26 was going to be 12 million.
Right.
Okay. Since then, we've moved it to 10 million. It's 11 million, and now it's currently at 10 million. I mean, we'll see how it all plays out here on the 6th, right? On the second reading of the budget. But that's where we stand right now. So we had to pull that back because of budget considerations. But the data from the voice of the customer, our residents, told us we need to improve our streets.
Right. Yep.
So that's what we did as city staff. We worked a plan to improve our streets.
Yep.
Okay, we can pull back from it because there's only a finite amount of resources.
Right. Yeah.
But it's that example.
Yeah. Right. And so it's like, because if you listen to our podcast, you've heard us say something along these lines. I feel like this is like confession time, or actually making what you said actually against a face. We've talked about how we have improved the streets that came from the citizen satisfaction survey, and that also shut down, not on purpose, by extreme coincidence. We've had the on-ramp, which isn't the city's fault, the on-ramp to Broadway shut down from Highway 252. We've had 16th Street, which you've already referenced that one, shut down this year. We've had the 3rd Street Bridge shut down for most of the year.
And currently,
yep. And there may be another thing that I'm missing, where there's these major traffic impacts where it is difficult to navigate through Minot. You are having to get creative and really understand your road system well. It's good for citizens, I guess. But are there factors like that play into it? Like, okay, we want road improvements. People want road improvements, but to what point do they want them? You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly. And that's where I think, again, that's where the subjective decision comes in. And that, that's incumbent upon us as city staff to also know what NDDOT is doing, right? And if they have issues, and we knew they had issues with this, right?
Yeah,
okay, but it was almost like this was almost the perfect storm, right? Because the game was already being played. Like, I mean, the season started,
you can't
right?
Change it.
But what's the county doing? Right. So what's the county engineer? What's his plans? And all these things. So I know, there's an infrastructure committee that meets monthly, and that we share this information. So really situational awareness. We know what we're all doing, how we and plan our way through it. And the goal obviously is to minimize impacts. I mean, that's the goal. Minimize impacts while we're maintaining the roads to the satisfaction that everybody wants them to be.
I think what people forget is, you guys are citizens too. You guys drive the same roads we do. You guys don't have a hover car that goes above everything. You guys get to enjoy the same impacts. I have something I want to do. Sometimes we do this when it's somebody's first time on the show. And so we're going to do it right now. It's called Rapid Fire. We'll go back to the important topics in a minute, but right now I feel like this is important. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and just your gut. I mean, take as much time as you want, but a couple seconds to answer. Baseball or football?
Baseball.
Okay. Any team in the World Series you're rooting for?
Oh, well, I'm a Baltimore Orioles fan.
Okay, so it's been a rough year, right?
Yeah. They have way too much talent to finish 12 games under 500.
Right, they do.
But a lot of injuries, so hopefully they'll bounce back.
I love their catcher.
Yeah, I would think we lived down in San Antonio for about 5 years. I became a big fan of Houston, went to their games every once in a while. And now that Carlos Correa is back with Jose Altuve, I think I'll be pulling for the Astros.
They somehow missed out on the World Series, though. They blew it at the end.
I know.
Or on the playoffs. So
they're out.
They blew it on the playoffs.
You got me on that one.
Yeah, go Mariners. Just join me.
Go Mariners.
Join me in Seattle. Yeah. Let's go Mariners, man.
Yeah.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone, definitely.
Yeah, that's good. We like you. That's enough. Pizza or steak?
Pizza.
Really?
All the time. Every day. I could eat pizza 7 days a week.
I love it. Reading a book or watching a movie?
Reading a book.
Hey, that's good. Winter or summer?
Summer.
Have you enjoyed the winters in North Dakota yet?
Well,
I mean, you've been through them. But
I've persevered. Is that fair?
That's
yeah.
Fair.
I got to tell you though, last year, and I was telling some of the airmen out at the base during the right start a few months ago. I got to tell you that Botno Winter Park is great.
Oh yeah,
that is great. Like so get on up to Botno Winter Park. That is awesome.
This is one of my favorite things about somebody that has moved into the area recently. There's so much stuff that we take for granted in our region that we just forget about. We just get into our lives, and Botno Winter Park can be one of those things. And even like the Badlands, we're we're blessed. The Badlands is gorgeous, and there's a lot to do out there, and it takes a little bit of time to get there. But there's a lot of stuff that North Dakota has if you just take advantage of it. Or you can say that there's just nothing to do. Mountains or plains?
Mountains or plains? Mountains.
Yeah, I'd agree. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird.
Okay, so then coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. He's a coffee man. All right. Norse Coos Fest or North Dakota State Fair?
They're both fun.
Yeah,
but
that's a tough one.
I really like the Hoostfest.
Yeah.
I like the various entertainment and musical events, and looking at the calendar. So we had a really good time this weekend on that. I will tell you one funny little story.
Okay.
So I went online a few weeks ago to buy tickets, right? Like, hey, who's playing in the Great Hall? So, got tickets for my wife and I to Abracadabra. I'm of age that, we live, I might not have been my albums, but probably my sister's ABBA albums. But anyway. Yeah. So Abracadabra. And then, it wasn't until early last week I looked at it and go, 1 p.m.? The show's at 1 p.m.?
Yeah.
Hey, it's all good.
It's a different environment there for sure.
It was great.
That's awesome. So moving back to some of the serious questions. Obviously, you're in a unique role right now. We're not going to get into the full depth of it, but you were assistant city manager. Now you're interim city manager. And at the time of this airing, probably people will know more about the next step from there. But when you look at Minot and you look at the city, the workings, the things that are going on, what do you see as the vision for Minot? Where's Minot headed as you kind of step into that role where you're playing lead on the city, whether that's in that assistant city manager role or whether that's in the city manager role? Where is the direction that Minot's headed right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was talking with some other key leaders over the last few weeks, and again, whatever role I'm in, in the next week or so, whether I'm the assistant city manager or the new city manager, it's about bringing all of those different entities together, and I think it's important to have a strategic vision. Yeah. Where do we want to go collectively? Right. Like, and again, if I'm the one saying if we're not growing, we're dying. Do people believe that, or is that just BS? Right. So, it's about the collective of the city. Like, where do we want to go? And honestly, little things like this survey can help. I know the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO, has a survey out right now, but we really need to hear from the people. Right. This is kind of like voting. It is. Like, we are so privileged to live in a country where we have the right to vote.
Yes.
And then a heck of a lot of us choose not to vote, right?
Yeah.
And that is because we don't understand the privilege of the vote.
Take it for granted.
We just take it for granted. Right. So I think it's about really collectively coming together, picking one or two things, really big strategic level things, and moving towards it as an entire community. Right. Because then it gets back to, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. Right. We can't do everything. So let's pick and choose as we move along and get after a few heavy things.
So when you talk about growth, and recently we talked with Visit Minot Director Stephanie Shanerock, which was a great conversation there, in economic development was a key topic there. And there you're talking about growth. And how do you measure growth? What are KPIs or what are objectives that you are actually measuring as, like, this is how we know we're growing? Is it people look to population, and when you look at to population, it hasn't been a kind number for Minot over the past 10 years.
Right.
But maybe that's not the number we should be looking at when we talk about growth. How do you actually kind of analytically determine whether or not we're being successful in that area?
Yeah, that's a real good question, because you could, in fact, be holding steady and declining a tad, yet quality of life is improving. Yeah. Right. There's some communities. I was in Kalispell, Montana this summer, and they've been growing at such a rapid rate that it is impossible for city services to keep up with it. It's just too fast, right? So it sounds good. Right. If you just were to Google Kalispell, Montana population growth 2020 to 2025, and you go, look at that. I mean, it's almost 10% year over year. Yeah. Like, they're sitting there going, whoa, right? So, so basically some of the quality of life things are probably important there. But I know the chamber, they go after the primary sector. If you can get major industry in, right? Our economic development is more restaurant, retail businesses,
Yeah.
but they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But if you bring in the primary sector and you're actually bringing in some various industries that's getting after 200-300 employees, families, et cetera, okay, that is then probably going to help convince, I'll just say it, a Chick-fil-A of the world.
Right, yeah, yes, that's what we need.
That, okay, here we go. They're growing, right? So we want to be part of that community, right? So they kind of go hand in hand there.
Right. No, that makes sense. So when you look at something like, I know there's other projects that maybe even be under the surface right now that are brewing, but even something like Project Sentinel, where that's not necessarily something that is going to bring a sustained growth to Minot, but it's definitely going to bring a bump in traffic for a while with the amount of people that will be moving in. And then there's a chance that some of them would even want to stay around if they get their families integrated into the community. Something like that is still a metric that you guys are tracking.
Absolutely, right? So, that sort of thing for housing development. We already know we have an issue in housing, right? We already know that demand outweighs the supply of affordable housing. Again, so we're obviously keeping our eye on the ball on Sentinel. What type of workers, what duration are they staying here? Because then, if they actually are coming for years, if we have program managers, et cetera, that are be here for years, there's a good chance they want to buy, which would be great. If not, then it affects more, Stephanie's world and the transient population and kind of like it did with the boom and all that and the growth in hotels.
Yeah, for sure. When you look at the city services and stuff like that, some people have said, and you've been able to go through probably a lot of these things. Your head over, I have them written down, I'm not going to pull them up, but Public Works, there was certain areas that you were actually kind of directing from what appeared. But when you look at these, some have said that it's a difficult process working with getting their houses built or getting their places built. I know my church recently went through an expansion, and there was overall, I think, a good experience. But of course, there's those difficult moments on the way. As you have gone through this different departments in the city organization, what have you found? Have you found, and this is, I know you're not going to come on here and just slam the city staff, and that's not what I'm looking for, but have you found it actually to be a pretty well-oiled machine that actually, whether citizens choose to acknowledge or not, actually, hey, there's really good process in that. Like any organization, there's places where things fall through the cracks, perhaps, but that is pretty well processed, or is there where we need to work on developing our systems a little bit more, tighten them up? What have you seen?
Overall, I would say we're good.
Yeah.
But good can be better.
Right. Yep.
So I'm a person, with the whole thing with data, right?
Yeah.
I focus on continuous process improvement. Mm-hmm. So as long as we all know, and that's just not teams, that's all of us. We all know we can be better, right? Yep. So, I've heard that feedback too. Right. In the last few weeks, I've talked to some people that have given me that feedback. I've sat down with our city engineer and our community and economic development director, and we're kind of brainstorming ideas. Something along the lines, in a former life, we would do things before we do a major contract. Sometimes we would do what we call an industry day.
Okay.
We'd bring in, before we put out an RFP or an RFQ of a significant contract, we do an industry day, and we'd bring in members of industry so we could have a really good dialogue, Q&A, and they could tell us maybe some of these same things. In the federal government, they're like, I don't understand this federal acquisition regulation at all.
Right.
Okay. Well, then it's the contracting officer's job to explain it to them and walk them through this in language that they understand, because they could be the best supplier of the goods and services we're looking for.
I see.
And if all we do is confuse them and frustrate them, and they put their hands up and go, whoa, and I'm not saying we're doing that,
right, for sure,
but it's worth listening to people and bring them in. I'm confident that there's quite a few people who would say how good we are as well, right? So you have not so good, you got okay, and then you got good. But let's get them all together. Let's figure out where these disconnects are. Let's try to iron that out. And if we can take a few steps out of the process, then let's do it. And it's about being consistent and transparent, right? If they hear a number, they're going to be stuck on that number. So there's this whole thing about don't overpromise and underdeliver.
Yeah.
You're probably better off doing it the other way around, right?
Yeah.
under promise and then over deliver.
Right.
It's like going to Disney World.
Yeah.
They tell you that, that line's going to be 30 minutes or 45 or an hour. And you're going, oh my gosh,
Right.
And they knew the whole time it was going to be 20 minutes.
Right.
So when you get on the ride in 20 minutes, you're going, man, this is great.
Yeah. Experience just improved based off that alone.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But also,
I'm not saying I don't want to deceive people. I mean, I'm just saying it's just interesting. Let's just make sure people are aware and we can, inform them and best educate them to the process. That's what I think it's really about. Well,
the amount of customers, because at the end of the day, that's kind of what it is, or citizens, or however you want to look at that, the different departments serve over a year is, you have seen the numbers and you probably don't have them top of head, but they're enormous numbers, I'm sure. And so when you have some that are, it's kind of what you're saying. Like, there's definitely people that have had good experiences too.
Sure.
You're going to hear about the bad ones because that's the ones people are going to go to social media and broadcast. But there's definitely good experiences as well. Something that is going to impact and that we've already seen beginning to impact is technology, and that grows. And there's kind of this idea that sometimes government stays a little bit behind the trend on technology, partly because it's so expensive and government has massive organizations typically. How do you see stuff like AI or even other things beginning to impact technology? Maybe you already are seeing some of this stuff impact you guys in your organization structure, making it more efficient, things like that. What's your perspective on some of that?
Yeah, so a couple things. So last year when I was fortunate to attend the International City Managers Association, that was the topic. I mean, you could not, like, you know how these gatherings are, like there's 14 things going on at any given time. You have to choose which of the 14 you're going to go to. Well, 12 of the 14 was AI. Like,
that's incredible,
right? And I think we're kind of at we're at that point that people are just now starting to get comfortable with AI, to the point where people are now getting comfortable with using Chat GPT, right?
Yep.
We have, Microsoft has a
Copilot,
right? So, we have people just starting to get comfortable with that. And that's the first step, to get comfortable with AI. And once you get comfortable with it, then you might use it more. But again, it's just another tool. Right. And it doesn't replace this major tool that's between your ears, and you got to make sure it's coming from the right sources and those kind of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we're winding down here. Hopefully we'll have you on again in the next little bit to talk about stuff more in specific, but thought it was great just to get to know you a little bit. I think probably the biggest question though that people have on their mind is this. We've talked about everything, but Vikings or Packers, Broncos? What's the football team? I mean, you probably have your favorite football team, but you have to adopt one.
Is the Commanders, right? Okay, yeah. But then I became a fan. We lived down in Colorado for a couple of years. I became a fan of the Broncos, but it happened to, bad timing. It was during the Russ Wilson years. Yeah, it's horrible.
He is.
And now Bo Nix shows up, and I don't live there anymore, right? So, I'm figuring I'm gonna go with the Vikings, right? Go with the Vikings. I tend to be a little bit of a homer. I like we went to a couple Twins games this summer. I like the nearby major league team to get affiliated with it. I could pick up the paper. I was like, that's my team.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna go with the Vikings. And
I was hoping you would say Packers.
Yeah. But there's a cheesehead in every crowd,
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. So, no, that's good stuff. Appreciate you coming on. What would you say to a citizen of mine as we finish up? I think, obviously, there's going to be election year next year, but as we finish up one of the probably most incredible years that Minot has went through as far as leadership in a long time, with just the different variations that had to go and the changes that had to be made. What do you say to us citizens as we finally come to the end of it, just to assure them that maybe the city has it together and we are headed in the right direction?
Yeah. So I would say I appreciate their patience with it. It has been a difficult year, but I would start with this. Leadership is important. It's very important, but we have great people on our team. I told former city manager Harold Seward that early on. I said, I have been around, I have worked with public servants all over the world, and our folks don't know how good they are.
Wow.
They are committed, they are dedicated, they live our values. We talk about our pride values, professionalism, responsibility, integrity, dedication, all in pursuit of the excellence. Yeah. They live that. They're committed to that. right?
That's good.
So the other thing I got to tell them every once in a while is don't read social media, okay? Because, but on the other hand, I will tell you, we have a lot of fans on social media too.
You do.
Right.
You do.
So we do have a lot of people that know we have some dedicated folks that are working really, really hard.
Yeah. Speaking of fans on social media, are you Team Monday or Team Tuesday when it comes to this whole recycling game?
Yeah, I'm Team Tuesday.
You're Team Tuesday all day.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I mean, we kind of dominate. Really.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I just, winning matters, Jonathan.
It does. It does. As you're a Commanders fan and now a Vikings fan, winning matters.
Winning matters. There's no second place.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Sounds good. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Been great discussion.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Look forward to coming back.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching this episode of Minot Matters, brought to you by Shock, Safe, and Lock. I'm Jonathan Starr. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Dakotan on YouTube and Facebook. Also, live shows every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m. Join us. Put your comments in. We'll read them. We'll talk about them. It'll be a great time. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.